Judges are coming in, okay? Allô, Julie?
Bonjour.
Ça va bien?
Oui, toi?
Oui, ça va bien.
Oui!
Il fallait que je me mette dans ta division.
Oui, parfait.
Et ce sera pas bien long. On est 3 juges aujourd'hui, puis il y a aussi
OK.
3 présentations. Fait
OK.
que les élèves vont arriver vers 3 heures pour la première.
OK, parce qu'ils nous ont demandé d'être là à peu près 10 minutes à l'avance pour qu'on puisse se présenter là, entre les juges.
C'est ça, exactement.
Okay. Ça va bien, so far?
Oui, ça va super bien. On a des petits écopes, là, mais
OK.
overall, ça va bien.
Ça fait partie de la game, là, dans la vraie vie, tu sais, c'est jamais parfait.
Exactement. Fait qu'on apprend puis on en profite.
Super, super. Fait que là, je regarde les photos de nos. Fait que nous, on va avoir 3 équipes. Je pense qu'il y a un groupe qui a juste 2.
Oui, la division 2, elle a juste 2 équipes.
OK. Ah, parce qu'il y a quelqu'un qui parle plus tôt. Bonjour Myriam, Mme Julie.
Bonjour, enchantée.
Ça va bien?
Oui, vous?
Oui, merci beaucoup.
C'est ma sœur, en fait.
Oui, puis on l'a su la semaine passée que Gabrielle était la présidente de la compétition, puis on s'en était jamais parlé. Puis je vais être là.
C'est quoi les chances, hein?
Oui, c'est ça. Mais mon conjoint, je t'en ai dit aussi, mon conjoint aussi fait partie. Bon, il a demandé qu'on ne soit pas dans la même équipe. Je pense que c'est son collègue. Là. Bon, ça n'aurait pas dérangé, mais.
Je pense que vous aviez été mis dans la même
Oui,
division.
oui, en fait, oui. Parce que moi, j'avais dit à Jérôme dès le début que mon conjoint aussi allait être là, mais dans le fond, je pense pas. Ça n'aurait pas vraiment dérangé parce que c'est pas, d'après moi, tu ne peux pas dire que c'est un conflit d'intérêts. Mais en même temps, je pense que c'est mieux qu'on ne soit pas dans la même.
Oui, juste au cas où.
Fait que là, tu es là-dessus toute la semaine, toi, cette semaine. Une grosse semaine.
Oui, ça a commencé lundi. Là, hier, on a une journée comme aujourd'hui. Demain, c'est juste du case solving. Puis après, vendredi, on a d'autres présentations. Puis là, samedi, ça
Oui, non, c'est ça, samedi, j'ai un engagement personnel. Sinon, j'aurais été, là. Mais...
Oui, ben, c'est pas grave. Il y aura d'autres fois.
Ben oui. Ouais, parce que ça, carver 6 heures dans une journée, je l'avais planifié d'avance, là, j'ai de la misère à... Mais non, je suis excitée de participer, j'ai hâte de voir les présentations, là.
Oui, oui, la compagnie aujourd'hui, c'est la compagnie de ton conjoint. Là,
ben oui, je savais, mais j'avais comme pas catché ça non plus, là. Je savais pas. Un matin, quand je suis allée voir le truc, parce qu'en tout cas, je cherchais le lien, je cherchais avec ton nom, puis là, j'ai trop d'emails, puis je savais pas qu'il y avait un autre Gabriel qui me l'avait envoyé, mais je regarde, je vais voir mon chum, je dis, ben, c'est parce que c'est ta compagnie. Il dit, ben oui, je te l'ai dit. Ah, I guess I was not listening. De toute façon, il faut garder confidentiel, là, c'est comme n'importe quoi. Là.
Exactement. Donc, j'ai hâte de voir ça, moi aussi. Ils ont travaillé fort, les équipes. Là, ça fait 6 heures. Là,
Ben oui, c'est beaucoup de travail quand même. Là. Je regardais le cas, puis c'est un cas quand même, c'est générique, mais c'est spécifique aussi. Là. C'était
beaucoup de travail. J'ai juste m'assurer que les autres équipes aussi.
Je vais juste aller m'ouvrir la présentation pour le... Comment il s'appelle? L'autre Gabriel a mis pour les critères et tout ça, là, les trucs comme ça, là, ça va être utile d'avoir ça pas loin de moi. C'est pas dans le fichier Excel, hein?
Non, c'est pas le fichier Excel. Ça va être dans le folder.
Dans la présentation, je l'ai trouvé.
Exactement. Puis nous, on est 1, 4, 7.
On est 7 personnes?
Non, on va faire la présentation pour l'équipe 1, l'équipe 4 et l'équipe 7.
Ah, OK. Ah, parce que tantôt, ils ont donné des petits comment évaluer les critères, là.
Ben, c'est juste pour que ça soit fair pour tout le monde, pour pas qu'il y ait des gens qui finissent avec 20 puis les autres ont 95.
Bon, non, c'est fair enough, là.
Mm-hmm.
Je vais me faire je vais me regarder mon fichier Excel puis l'autre pas trop loin, là. Et Myriam, quel est ton rôle dans la compétition?
Moi, je suis chronomètre.
Oh, OK! Donc, tu vas t'assurer que tout est on time.
Oui,
exactement.
Elle va aussi venir avec vous dans le breakout room quand vous allez
OK.
les scores. Je trouve que tout le monde, qu'on les a bien reçus.
OK, super. Puis ça, j'assume que ça va être clair sur mon ordi. Je vais avoir une petite affaire. Click here to go to the breakout room.
Oui. Sinon, je vais te bouger. Il y a
OK.
vraiment pas de problème.
Mais d'habitude, moi, je vois un message, je clique dessus.
Ouais, fait que. Mais en bas, tu devrais voir breakout room.
Là, je ne le vois pas.
Ah, OK. Je vais te bouger d'abord. Il n'y a pas de problème.
C'est ça. Là, je vois participants, chat, share screen, record, reaction, apps. C'est tout ce que je vois. Puis mute, puis stop vidéo.
Ben, il n'y a pas de problème.
Comment vous faites pour mettre un background? Parce que moi, je peux mettre un background avec mon Teams, mais avec Zoom,
Ouais, ben, tu vois, sur vidéo, il y a comme une petite flèche. Si tu cliques dessus, ça dit
en vidéo, moi, j'ai le choix de mute my video, stop. Oh, choose virtual background. That's awesome. None or blur. Ouais, OK.
Ben, tu peux cliquer sur le petit plus.
Il y a un petit plus. Ah, ben oui, c'est toute beauté. Add image. Blur. Bonjour.
I think you're muted.
Perfect. Thank you. Hello.
Hello, Eva. I'm Julie from
Yes.
Bombardier.
Hi, Julie. I'm Eva. I'm from John Molson School of Business. I'm the director of the CPA program.
Okay, nice meeting you.
Nice to meet you as well.
So thank you so much for being here today. We really appreciate it.
We're excited to see the presentations.
We're excited as well.
So am I. Refreshing.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're missing a judge because I think we're supposed to decide who will ask what type of question.
Yes.
Joe
There's there's one more person with us, and it's Joe Gazal. Yeah, I don't think
yeah.
Yeah.
Understood that is from L3.
Yes.
Yeah. L3Harris. Yeah.
He's also on our board of directors.
Oh, yeah, okay.
He helps us quite
Sure,
a lot.
he'll ask the juicy questions since it's like he's from the company, right? So
Yeah, exactly. Mind you, I mean, AI is kind of, the new, the data analytic and everything is the new norm or, getting there. So it's going to be interesting.
disruptive change.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Change is good.
Change is very good.
Sometimes I joke that the only thing that doesn't change is change.
Yes. What do you do, Julie, at Bombardier?
I'm a director in engineering on the project management side and kind of the business side of engineering. So,
okay.
But I guess I have three areas: project management, all the kind of process and tools, change of PLM system, data analytic, and budget, chief of staff type of. So that's my three main roles.
Okay, excellent.
Hi, Joe.
Hello, Joe.
Bonjour, Joe. Hi. I think you're on mute.
The number one thing everybody says, you're on mute. How many
Our
times
new
did you tell
reality.
us that, Gabrielle?
A lot.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. How's everybody doing?
Good.
Very well.
Excited.
You're excited?
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. It's going to be refreshing. Change of my day.
Yeah. Well,
Mind you, I wish it had been face-to-face. I need to get out of the house, but that's a different story after 2 years.
yeah, March 20th, 2 years.
Yeah, March 16 for me.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, bit of background on me, because I heard you guys talking as I was trying to finalize a couple of things. Because I work at L3Harris, and I work in business development, but my main role is I'm responsible for our industrial participation team. So responsible for all industrial offsets with Canada. So I worked with the team that developed this project, and I'm the one who basically presented ENCHCOM to the corporation to continue investing. And I've been pushing now for 3 years, or not pushing. We've been a member for 3 years. And last year I was asked to be a member of the board of directors. So we coached Gabrielle and the rest of the team as they went from a live event, and I can tell you, to overnight they went to a virtual event. So it wasn't an easy thing, but the team did an amazing job and they worked very hard to do it. Before we go any further, are there any questions with the case or who L3Harris is, what we are, what we do? So I can answer your questions before we get into the case.
No, not for me.
No?
Was more maybe the split of, they wanted us to maybe kind of agree who will be asking what type of questions. I'm not sure. And by the way, this is my first competition, so you guys probably have more experience than me, but should we kind of set what type of question, or we just go free flow type of approach?
Well, when we go into our breakout session, where we'll just be us, we'll talk about what we liked, what we didn't like. I've been doing judging for 3 years. This is the 3rd year. What I find that's important is, yes, all the technical stuff, but what's interesting is the passion that they present. How did they capture the issue at hand, and how did they identify the problem and come up with the solution? But how did they play off each other? And let's not be shy to ask the questions to maybe the most timid person, the shyest one of the team, or the shyer one of the team, and ask them questions, etc. So because in everything, some are more timid than others, etc. So I'll quiet my other computer.
But I guess we have a representative of both business and engineering side of the house, or that was kind of the big 2 pillar that I saw.
Yeah, so I'm from the business side, and Julie, engineering.
I'm engineering, but I'm also kind of the business side of engineering. Like I was saying before, I have project management, the PLM, data analytic type of team as well, and all the budget, chief of staff type of role. So kind of 3 main roles. So yes, in engineering, but on the business side of it. So I guess I'm maybe on the fence of both world, I will say.
And Eva?
Yeah, so I'm right now I'm the director of the CPA program at John Molson. So I run the program and I teach in it more on the what was the old CMA side, like management accounting, performance management, KPIs. But my background is not academia, it's industry. I come from management consulting and I come from IT strategy. So I have a heavy IT background. My degree was in IT, and I worked in helping management improve their IT practices, IT strategies. So I come from and cross industry. So I've worked with a lot of banks and insurance and manufacturing. I used to work for Alcan. I was responsible for information architecture worldwide at one point in time in my life, before AI and data analytics was hot. So yeah, so I kind of have a mixed bag also, even though I'm CPA. So I'll ask weird questions, including change management, which I'm very big on, because IT, I mean, that was the biggest issue in real life on the floor. It's always the change management aspect.
People change management, you mean?
The people, the HR change management, especially with AI, disruptive change. Not everybody follows, Joe, to your point, or I think it was Julie that said you love change. One thing that's constant is change, but not everybody embraces change the same way.
No, and I agree. So I think, to answer your question, I think I'm not an engineer, but I have a good understanding of the technical side. I understand what the team put in place here as part of our package, and because I really understand what we're looking for here. And so on the math side or the business side, Eva, you can really dig into that one. And Julie, on the program side or the AI side, I think we'll also go with Eva, but on the programmatic sides and other issues, you can go in. I'm going to try to understand how they're going to help us with AI technology to improve our predictive maintenance and capabilities, because that's what we really want to do. We want to shorten the time an aircraft is on the ground. because the customer doesn't make money when an aircraft is on the
Yeah.
ground, even in the defense world. He's not operational when the aircraft is on the ground, so he doesn't make money, but he's still protecting. So, Gabrielle, are we going to be ready to go? Do we have a timer?
Yes, so Miriam is here today. She's going to be the timer. And I didn't want to cut you, but there's people in the waiting room. So, and we'll be able to start at 3:05. Okay, as soon as all the team is in, I'll give the breakdown and then we can start.
Okay, so
Okay.
do you have time for a
We're
quick
ready
bio
for it.
break then?
Bio
Yeah.
break.
Do you have
You
time?
got
If
2
not,
minutes, Judy.
2 minutes. 2 minutes, it will be hand wash.
So, Eva, do you know Lynn Lortie? She's works as a VP for the L'Ordre des CPA.
Excuse me. Hi, team.
I would
Sorry.
have to see, not directly, I would have to see her picture. Maybe I
Okay.
do, I just don't remember the name.
Okay. Oh, we got a team in.
Hello, how are we? Culture.
Hey, we're good. So,
Start. I'm just gonna give you guys the breakdown. So you have 1 more minute to prepare and share your PowerPoint. And then you guys have 15-minute presentation, and then it's going to be followed by a 15-minute Q&A. After that, there's going to be a 15-minute period where the judges are going to be in their own breakout room, and the participants will be in their own participant breakout room. Once that is done, there's going to be a 10-minute feedback period back in the main room.
Okay, perfect.
Any
Perfect. So do you want to share
That's all good.
the
That's it, yeah.
presentation?
Are you ready?
I think Julie's back. Yep.
Here. Right. Can you see that?
Move us.
We can. If
Perfect.
the team is ready, the floor is yours. Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Nelly, right.
Okay. First of all, on behalf of the team, I'd like to welcome you to our L3 in-service support AI integration solution. We're a team research innovation. This is the team. Apologies. There we go.
There we go.
So this is the team. It's myself, Killian Burns, Aidan Donoghue, Oren Lang, and Oisin Rua. And this is our solution. So for the brief analysis, we'd had to analyze the brief. We had to analyze both the engineering aspect and the business aspect. We had to define our problem solutions, define the AI methodologies, specific efficiencies to our solution, what makes ours different, and we had to implement a plan as a result. We also had to define a business model for our solution and determine the project costs, and finally identify the financial risks and opportunities accompanying our solution. So what are the aims of this presentation? We wanted to develop an AI product to improve the current landscape of data integration and AI tools that will make L3Harris MAS a differentiating posture in the aviation industry with in-service support. Excuse me. So first of all, what is artificial intelligence? Well, artificial intelligence is not complex. AI is essentially where a computer or a system performs tasks that need human intelligence to complete. In our case, we're using AI to improve in-service support, ISS, and to boost L3Harris's AI program. So possible solutions.
So now we're going to talk about the possible solutions we discussed. The first one was to enhance our AI maintenance capabilities, BAP, which stands for the Behavioral Analysis Program. Then we were looking at to model AI to identify optimal positions for sensors on our airlines or our helicopters. The third one we looked at was to develop AI to find and identify failure modes in our aircrafts. So we've made this matrix table where we've had different weights carried throughout. We looked at feasibility, the benefit, the cost, the reliability, and the implementation time, and we came up with our scores. So firstly, we looked at the model of the sensor data. So this is trying to create an AI that will learn about the vehicle and place sensors in optimal positions so that we can find any failure modes. So as you can see in feasibility, it scored a 1, benefit scored a 3, cost scored a 2, reliability scored a 1, and implementation time scored a 1, giving a total score of 19. Then we looked at the behavioral analysis program, which had a feasibility score of 3, benefit score of 2, a cost of 1, reliability of 2, and an implementation time of 3, giving that a total score of 24. And then the failure mode with a feasibility of 1, benefit of 3, cost of 2, reliability of 1, and an implementation time of 2, giving a total score of 20. Given this, we decided to go with our behavior analysis program as it scored the highest on our matrix table.
So what is the behavioral analysis program? We've shortened it to BAP for convenience, but the idea is simple. We're combining the flight data that's already recorded, that's already taken in from the flight, and we are accompanying this with an individual pilot. So this will allow us to more accurately schedule routine checks, and it should help ground crews with diagnostic problems. The idea is simply to link the flight data to particular pilots so that it can be analyzed easier. So what does this mean for who's this for? So it's for this. Dave is an example of a ground crew engineer. So Dave, he's trying to fix a problem with the plane. He has one plane that is a lot of damage, and it's a lot more fatigued than any other plane in his fleet. So with the current solutions, he can see where the damage is, what the damage is, and he can see how it's caused, but he can't see why it's different to any other plane in his fleet. And so with our program, we'll be able to link this with an individual pilot. So he'll be able to see one pilot has actually been a more aggressive flyer. They'll tape sharper angles and accelerate faster, and be an overall more wear on the plane. And so he can see that this is why this particular plane has been more damaged than any of the others. So Killian will take you through the technical analysis.
So for the technical analysis, we'll take a closer look into our engineering solution. So there's already AI in L3Harris, they're a market leader. So currently the AI will deal with maintenance, it will find issues, system level health, and predict faults. Semantic analysis, automation of robots. But what's next for this expanding puzzle? So we have our AI selection for our IA idea, and Ada will take us through this.
Hi. So obviously there's many divisions of AI, and in this project we looked at the specific division of AI that we need to incorporate into our program. So with neural networks, we can use this implementation of AI to recognize the underlying relationship between pilots' flight patterns and the frequency of maintenance issues. So here, like Oisin talked about, we've had an aggressive flyer who maybe takes off faster at a higher takeoff angle. See how that relates to the maintenance issues and the frequency of them. We can use expert systems then to identify flight patterns that could cause mechanical wear, again with the aggressive flyers. And then this way you could predict the lifespan of the part before failure. So that here we can do preventative measures, which are obviously a lot better. And these will be based on the flight patterns of the pilot.
So what information do we need? How is the pilot data collected? Well, the AI that we make will collect and store the data. It will then communicate with the ISS AI to predict the failure with components to the pilot's style of flying. So for example, we'll display a real graph versus an ideal graph. This would be pilot takeoff speed, graphing that acceleration, and factory theoretical takeoff speed in a CF-18 Hornet plane, where the ideal degree of takeoff is 8. So for example, we'd have our ideal graph there, and then our real graph.
So what information do we need from the pilot? So here we can use behavioral data, and this data is defined as data that describes the observed actions of the users or pilots. So here gives you the real insights into how the pilots are or would potentially fly the fighter jets. So specifically, we're looking at landing, so the trajectory of the landing and the force when it hits the ground. Takeoff, so the takeoff angle and the speed, and then also the pilot's flight and behavior during adverse weather conditions. So here there could be whether they fly faster or more conservatively during storms, etc.
So how do we obtain and clean this data? So essentially, we're going to have to get the data from the airplane, and that's already there more or less. There's acceleration speeds, bank angles and G-forces, ascent angles and landing forces that we can all obtain already from the aircraft. And on the ground with our maintenance engineer, we'll produce a graph like that on acceleration and acceleration degrees, etc. And the engineer would use this to try and find any possible faults. Why our idea is the solution? Well, simply, first of all, it offers further inspection for maintenance crews. It offers quick analysis of pilots' flying reactions on aircraft parts. Current checks with MAS AI does not monitor the results of pilots' flying style on the aircraft. And finally, our friend Dave will be able to diagnose the problem and be able to take a proactive measure to fix it.
So what's our digital roadmap and information plan? So here we have a 3-year pilot program. So we'll target the Laughlin Air Base in Del Rio in Texas. This program will be targeting 5 pilots, and their 5 patterns will be analyzed and their tendencies as well. So these are going to be used or analyzed using existing solutions that are already there, sensors and the likes. So the data will be used to form a baseline for the AI to learn and then predict possible future failure modes. In the future, then we can use this system to scale up and include a huge amounts of flight patterns and behavioral data from other pilots and planes and the like. We can use this data in the future to improve the autopilot. So in terms of landing and taking off, we can increase the autopilot nature and decrease the maintenance requirements for fighter jets. Also in the future with fighter jets, we can minimize delay times. So improve jet maintenance and minimizing delay times is of utmost importance, especially in times of conflict. So sustainability as well. So what effect does this have on the BAP program? So there's a big focus on waste reduction. So here we can, as you can see, with analyzing our maintenance times, we can encourage more fuel efficient flying with the pilots. We have improved fighter jet lifespan because we can target when parts can be at increased risk due to the behavior of the pilot, and we can reduce the need for parts, i.e. the same as improving the lifespan.
So now I'm going to talk you through the market analysis. So first thing we do when we're looking at a market analysis is SWOT analysis. So we're going to look at the strengths first. The comprehensive understanding from all perspective we'll get from this technology. Another strength is that we have more information for the ground crew to work with, and it improves a plane's lifespan because we can predict when it will fail and how it will fail and try and put in preventative measures. Some of the weaknesses then, as not all flights are completely manual. So there might be some discretion where the AI will take over, autopilot will take over, for instance, when it's in the air. So there might be certain areas where the pilot is fully in control. And we could also get inaccurate readings from our AI if it's not calibrated correctly. So the opportunities we have from the AI system that we've put forward is the prevention of failure. So it gives us a massive opportunity to try and prevent failure and increase the productivity of our mass airlines. We can also learn from the pilot flight analysis and develop that we collect data and give us the opportunity to then make fully autonomous planes because this data is being collected all the time, as we know. Some of the threats, well, there's always that threat with AI that AI will learn too much and it'll take over. And there's also the threat of a security breach. So that would be someone hacking into our system and getting our data. So now we're going to look at the market research. So as you can see, the AI market growth will be massive over the next 8 years. In 2020, it was a $51.8 billion industry. And in 2028, it is projected to be a $641.3 billion industry. This is a compound annual growth rate of 36.4% year on year. And given these stats, this is definitely a viable market. The structure of savings and efficiencies, AI structure is already in place by L3Harris, are finding mechanical issues, system level health, and to predict mechanical faults. But with our system implemented, the BAP will increase efficiencies in this field and it will provide a new aspect to analyze, which will emphasize the structures already in place. This will save millions wasted in trying to locate issues that have a direct correlation to the pilot's influence on the plane/helicopter. I'm going to hand you over to Oisin now for our financial analysis.
Thank you. So our plan was to invest 22 million over the first 5 years. As you can see from the graph, the first graph here, it's 6 million initial investment and then 4 million over the following 4 years. I've projected the next 10 years if this solution does take off and become a very viable or lucrative offer. We believe we could up that to 10 million a year in investment with the current growth of the market. I've also broken down the expenditures over the first year, and as you can see, AI development will be a huge portion of it, and this will in fact go forward to the future in general AI developments within the company. It's not all specific to this particular application. Our system, we believe this is the final key element to the full vehicle model. Before this, L3Harris is modeled like predicting failures and analyzing wear and tear on planes, but this is the final element that we believe will make a full vehicle model. And as of 2025, it's projected that North America will be the leading region in AI development in the military. And so we believe we can jump on this market and we can be a part of that leading development. And finally, data is power, and we believe we can, using this, we can go forward. We think we can take on slightly a similar model as the Tesla business model. At the moment, Tesla is only a car company, but as of 2022, they've had 5.1 billion miles logged in artificial or as driverless miles. And so with this data, they're able to accurately model how an autonomous car can drive. So we believe we can implement similar situation in the future for our company.
Finally, that concludes our presentation. We believe that not only our product improves efficiency and accuracy in your maintenance AI technology, but it provides a plethora of opportunities for your company in the AI field. We hope you enjoyed our presentation, and thank you very much for listening. Any questions?
Thank you, team. So we'll now enter the Q&A section. If you judges have any questions, the floor is yours.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I'll say thank you to Team Research Innovation. Good job, guys. You guys went through it pretty quick. Pretty good. Just a couple of questions with regards to your solution. You realize this is a defense program. These are defense platforms, so military platforms. So certain information on certain individuals will not be provided to a contractor because they're considered classified. So getting data on specific pilots, you'll never get. So, but I'm more apt to understand the model that you developed and trying to understand the return on the investment. So near the end, you presented an investment of about $22 million on 5 years, but what's the return we would anticipate on that investment over time?
Well, we believe a huge amount of this, the problems that we've seen are that maintenance costs can be huge, and often like the routine maintenance can be like they'll return with inspections passing with no problem for numerous years. So we believe with our system we can maybe cut down slightly on when routine checkups can be done. We can see when particular planes need to be taken in more often than other ones due to the personnel on board. And so we think cutting down on routine maintenance costs is one big factor, but also in turnover time for maintenance on particular parts of the aircraft. If they do break, we believe this will be a handy tool to help diagnose the problems that are faced by the ground crew at the moment.
Thank you. Julie?
Ouais, I have a few, but I guess I'll just go with one and maybe we'll come back. So Julie Portelance, hi guys. Thank you for the presentation. So maybe first question, during the SWOT analysis presentation. You mentioned that one of the weakness, is sometimes it's not all, the pilot is not always flying, it's the autopilot. And you also mentioned in one of the threat, the security breach. So can you maybe elaborate more? How will you prevent those risks? One of them in collecting the data on the autopilot and the other one on the security breach.
So one of the weaknesses that would be explored would obviously be the fact that when after takeoff and landing, sometimes there is an autonomous feature for the flight, but that because it's autonomous, it wouldn't impact the data as much. It wouldn't have as much of an impact on the wear and tear of the plane because it is autonomous and it can be regulated. What we're really looking at is the pilot data. So it would be, some people would view it as a weakness, but it's I listed it as a weakness because of that, but I really feel that it's not a weakness. And then for the security breach, obviously with very sensitive technology, there's always a threat that it could fall into the wrong hands, that someone could get a hold of it that isn't supposed to know about it. So I feel like that is always a threat when working with artificial intelligence or intelligence in general.
Emma?
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. I also have multiple questions, but I guess I'll ask one of the ones I have. I'm more concerned about the data that's coming out from the AI system and on the pilots, and how are we going to ethically use that? Like the pilot, do we need their consent? Do you think this is going to be well taken? I'm assuming now it's implemented and we need to operationalize it. How would that work?
Well, to answer the first part, it's not really to call out the pilots as such. I'm sorry if it came across like that, but sorry. It's not to call out the pilots as such. It's just to try. The whole system is to try and find a solution to any possible wear and tear caused by a certain pilot's maneuvering during the flight, either during takeoff, in flight, or at landing. It's not calling them out. It's not going to really use. It could be anomalous. Sorry, it could be anomalous, and we'll still be able to find out through the if the aircraft comes down and it's taken in for a maintenance check. The maintenance crew will be able to look at the data from the flight. Doesn't need to know who the pilot is, but is able to see, okay, they took off quite a harsh angle there. That's put extra stress to the wings. That's probably why I'm getting a sensor fail for this part. So for that reason, to be able to say, okay, now I can go and solve for that problem, and I know the reason why that happened, and I can try and prevent that from happening in future.
It's also providing an extra statistic so that we can create a direct correlation between the flight pattern and also to the information we'll be receiving from the sensors in the plane. So it's more of a statistic that we don't have and that we could have.
Okay, so we won't be used in any way to associate back to the pilot, and maybe even training or improvement in their flying, I don't know, techniques. So that's not, would not go that far.
No, it's purely just to look at it from an analytic form, to analyze to see, okay, in that certain flight, was there a moment where there was exceeded stress that was unnecessary? So it's just providing a statistic that we can then correlate to a mechanical failure.
Would they be aware though? Would you make them aware of it's actually on the plane and it's being tracked? Again, from an ethical perspective, even though it's not being used.
Well, it can be left up to the company to decide it, but obviously you couldn't implement something like this without the consent of the pilot. But the fact that a lot of it can be anonymous, or it can only be seen by ground crew and people analyzing the situation, rather than like if they're afraid higher ups at sea or anything like this. It's all for just the maintenance aspect of it, not so much tracking how a pilot flies. But we've seen other airline companies have implemented stuff like this for their analytics, for when it comes to deciding which pilots to bump up to onto better planes and stuff like this. But for us, we want to keep it purely on the maintenance side rather than go into the personnel side of it.
Okay. I have other questions, but I'll ask someone else let someone else ask. Thank you.
When you, yep, thank you. When you guys jumped into your presentation on slide 7, you jumped into possible solution matrix. What were you trying to identify to us in that matrix?
So we were trying to identify, we came up with 3 concept ideas that we thought would improve the maintenance efficiency of this current AI that's going on. And they were 3 things that we felt would improve it. So for example, the enhanced the BAP that we ended up developing, there was to identify optimal positions for sensors so that it would be easier to find faults. That was another area that we explored. And then it was also to be able to identify failure modes before they actually occurred. So these were the 3 avenues that we explored, and the matrix table really shows that we explored all 3 avenues and came up with scores weighted out for each one. And that's how we decided to go for the behavioral analysis program.
Perfect. Any other questions?
Can I ask another one?
Yeah.
Let me just go to my note. When you talk about, you gave us the example of, who will benefit or who is this for, and you gave the Dave, the ground crew. But in that example, it's a bit what I will call a lagging indicator. So can you elaborate maybe a bit more? Maybe I missed it. Is your model also going to look at leading indicator as opposed of just lagging? And maybe I need to.
Can you just explain what you mean by lagging there? Sorry.
Yeah, lagging, and maybe sorry for it, but the lagging indicator, it's after the fact. So the plane goes back and they've looked at it. It's going to find, okay, the pilot was a bit rough. Okay, that's why maybe versus, and it's too late. It's already happened. So maybe it's going to know which part to. So leading indicator is more data today that will help you predict a bit the future. That wasn't clear to me if the model was going to offer the possibility of having more of a leading indicator prediction than after the fact.
Okay. So a big part of our program is predictive measures and preventative measures. So with analyzing the data from the anonymous pilot, we can see that, okay, this certain anonymous, let's say number 1, has been flying aggressively for the last 4 or 5 flights. This plane then has under increased pressure, maybe on the wing or on one of the due to turbulence as well. That means that maybe it's at higher risk of then a failure. So that's where we can then introduce introduce like an maintenance check then, just because we know that, oh, there's more pressure on this plane now because of this more aggressive pilot.
Okay.
That's why our preventative measures.
Yeah, so it's kind of a way of collecting data to then provide a preventative measure. So we would collect the data, assess the data across all the flight patterns and see, okay, well, this pattern is slightly more aggressive, so maybe we should check on that, make sure it's okay, and prevent failure happening in the flight.
Okay. Thank you.
And I have to have time for one last question. What are your top 3 risks that you see in what you've proposed from both a technical and business perspective?
Okay. So, for the business perspective, one of the main risks that we would look at is the fact that autonomous flights is becoming is something that will be happening in the future, and that would be a risk that we would have to account for, especially considering that this business plan is basically founded on the fact that there is a human flying this plane, so that we can account for maybe their mishaps or their excessive use of a certain aspect of flying. So autonomous flying, fully autonomous flying is definitely a risk for us, but we feel like that is a little bit further down the line than it would take for us to implement this contribution to the AI technology. So is any more of the technological?
Well, possible risks do you mind, sorry, what was the risk for the technical aspect, was it?
I asked you for your top 3 risks. Like if you go up to the CEO of L3,
Top 3 risks.
and well, if they ask you the question, what are the top 3 risks that I should worry about what you're putting forward?
Top 3 risks is that well, for the technical side of it, is the AI could be not functional for longer than it might be developed in time. There might be bugs and issues with it. That's a huge problem. That's why AI has not developed as much as it has so far. That's a huge risk. Another risk would be that there could be, the getting that technology onto planes might require a new parking made or new software to be developed as well as the existing software. And finally, obviously the security breach. What if the AI doesn't have a firewall set up correctly in time? There could be a hacking, and that could possibly hijack the data, which is a very serious threat, huge risk.
Okay. Financing, do you see financing this project easy or?
I think definitely in the AI market, financing shouldn't be too much of a problem. We've seen that the market has gone from since 2010. It's gone from I believe it was 5 billion or 5 or 10 billion all the way up to 300 billion in the coming years, and then believed to be by 2080 or 2028 it'll be up to 600 billion. So we believe this is a huge market for investment, and that any company that doesn't get a foot in the game now at this stage, they're missing out hugely. So we believe AI is a really big demanding area at the moment. So we think we should be able to get some funding at least for this.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much for your questions.
Any more questions from the judges?
No, just Gab, to you and Miriam, when you put up the signs, because you have the backgrounds behind you, it blurs. It's very hard to see what comes up. Okay.
Thank you so much, John.
So, okay. So what's the next part? What's the next step?
Is deliberation. So, excuse me. If you see the breakout room at the bottom, you should be able to go to your respective room. So the participants room, and the judges to the judge room. If you cannot see it, I will move you. There's no problem.
Don't see it.
Don't see it.
Don't see it either. Oh yeah, now I see it. It
just popped
disappeared.
up.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep, I'm going in. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Hi, Rui.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, trying to find the mute on my computer. It took forever. I'm gonna pop into one of the other groups and just sit in and see how it's going.
I hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, thank you. I hope you're having fun.
Yeah, I really am.
All right, good stuff. I'll talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon. Bye. Welcome back. We're just gonna wait for the participants to join as well.
Okay.
Awesome.
Guys,
Hi, how are we?
We'll start the feedback period. There's 10 minutes. So when you are ready.
Julie,
Okay.
stay so mute.
You're muted, Julie.
Sorry, I thought I clicked on it. Sorry, cut 12 going on here. So again, thank you for the presentation. Give a few feedback, and I guess my colleagues are going to chip in. One of the point, very dynamic, very good, how can I say, team spirit, can tell that the role were clear, kind of know each other. So that was well, can feel it even on the screen, which is difficult. So well done. One point though that I think is worth mentioning, it went super fast. We went from a clear problem statement to a solution that I received like a train. I'm still a bit complex of what the solution is. So that's for me an important point to mention, and maybe I'll let some of my colleagues mention other point.
What?
I can go next. So yeah, so I really liked the handoffs, like how you manage, like to Julie's point, the team dynamics, like and the flow of the presentation between the four of you. I found you very seamless. So I think that was very, very well done. I found the beginning was very fast, like especially when you presented the matrix table, like when you got to that point, I was more perplexed than anything else because I couldn't really understand what the other options were. So, when you bring options up, explain a bit what they are, so I can understand why the weights, where they were, because I was left with more questions and answers at that point. Or don't bring other options, just say we assessed various things, we picked this for XYZ, and then don't get me like so I found that one a little bit fast, and then you spend more time on developing everything else, but I was already a bit like lost. I didn't know why it was behavior analysis and what exactly it was going to be as a solution. Very much Julie's points. The conclusion, I would create a more punchy conclusion, like tying it back to your stakeholder, like being your CEO, of L3Harris, you're basically your board, being both an engineering board and a business board. And what are the key takeaways, maybe 4 key takeaways, why I should invest in this project, right? It's a very expensive envelope of 22 million, right, over 5 years. So I need to be, again, repeat to me, tell me why I should invest. Another little thing, always put page numbers at the bottom of your PowerPoints. So therefore, when, as where the executive team as a judge wants to ask questions, they might write down page, this question. So it's easier to bring you back and make the question period more efficient.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
So I got a couple for you guys. So just a couple. First of all, great job. You had 6 hours, and what you did in 6 hours is very good. The first thing, when you guys are introducing yourselves, before you start, take a deep breath, relax, and it's not a sprint. Because I know you have another one coming up on Thursday. Just remember, it's not a sprint, the presentation. You have 15 minutes, time it. You guys went very fast. We didn't catch any of your names at the beginning. You went, hi, here we are, boom, boom, boom. And then next thing you know, you're 3 slides later. And it's just, and maybe do the opportunity to let everybody introduce themselves. You're not going to take too much time, but I've been judging for a few years, and it's a way of getting everybody to break the ice.
Okay.
And for everybody to get to know and understand everybody. So that's that. The solution, you guys were going down a perfect path. And then all of a sudden, you kind of started bringing in pilots involved and everything else. And when you look at the problem statement, never is it mentioned pilots or autonomous vehicles or everything else. We're looking for solutions in the repair and overhaul world. So you guys were going down a right path by saying, hey, we're going to put some sensors on this aircraft. We're going to monitor this. We're going to look for where we can make savings, reduce maintenance cycles, increase maintenance cycles, etc. So you were going down that path, and then you seemed to divert at one point. So, but you had it bang on at one point. And to go with Eva's comment, when you're going in front of the president or a team to say, hey, look, I want $22 million. First thing they're going to say, what's my return? And you have the answer, but how am I going to get that return? Is it going to be over a 10-year period? So 5 years worth of investment. When am I going to make my money back? How long is it going to take me to make my money back and make profit on it?
Okay.
So these are some of the points that I have.
Thank you.
Maybe I'll add one more, Joe. One of the thing I thought, because at the end we've asked you a few questions, and believe me, they were not planned. We're just asking. And I thought that most of you guys, some of them were a bit difficult. The risk is kind of a big question. But I thought you guys, again, part of the team synergy complemented well each other. And as well, I like your answer, because again, it's spur of the moment. Within like 30 seconds, you have to come, let alone the 6 hours to prepare that, which by the way is a wow in itself. But again, for me, the answering the question was also a positive aspect. And again, I can tell your teamwork has a lot to do about that. So.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Do you guys have any questions?
Jeez, I don't know. It's a lot to process, but I think we've taken down a lot of the stuff that you mentioned, and we're going to try work on it. We've kind of tried to implement a lot of stuff we learned yesterday as well, so it's still very new for us. So we're just trying to get everything down.
We're also, your feedback is brilliant, because we're all learning on this, which is ultimately the main goal. Before we finish our degrees and go out. So thank you very much for listening to us and giving us this feedback, because it's very important to our future careers.
Well, this is what it's all about, you guys. It's great to see you getting involved and participating in these events, and to the ENGCOM team for all the work they did to organize this and everything else. And I could tell you, you get this, I don't know what time you got it this morning or this afternoon, and then you're cold and you're attacking this. And in the 6 hour window, you have to understand, build, develop your presentation, and work as a team. And you guys nailed it. So just, you got a big 12-hour one coming on Thursday. Is it Thursday or Friday, Gab?
Tomorrow. It's Thursday.
Tomorrow.
Oh,
Yeah. And then you're going to need a good night's sleep, because, because then on Friday, I think you present, but well, good job, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations and good continuation.
Yeah.
Thanks very much. Thank you very much.
Cheers, guys.
Thank you to
Bye.
the team, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.
Yeah.
See you.
Adios.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, I was going to tell them to go and get a nice Guinness, but we're not allowed to know where they're from.
Yeah, I don't think so. They're from Lac-Saint-Jean, là, but yeah.
Je pense pas.
Non, moi non plus.
So we're just gonna let the next team in.
Sorry, Gabrielle, I lost you. I had a beep on my computer.
I'll let the next team in 2-3 minutes.
Okay.
So who do we have? Tag Consulting?
K-Tag Consulting.
K-Tag.
Do we have 3 minutes of break?
Of course, please.
Okay, I just gotta go get a different pen. My pen's run out. So 1 second.
No problem.
I'll be right back.
No issue at all.
Back. Je pense que tu es en mute, Gabrielle.
Si.
Non,
Oui,
c'est intéressant pour ma première. C'est intéressant.
oui, oui, c'est vraiment intéressant. Genre, tout le monde a quelque chose d'unique.
Oui, oui, oui.
Euh,
Moi, j'aimais ça qui était tout vêtu en petit suit. Je trouvais ça cute.
Ouais, oui.
Moi, j'étais en jogging. Bon, je vais aller chercher Est-ce que la représentation, je la vois maintenant ou juste à la fin? Oh, je peux aller la chercher maintenant.
Tu devrais l'avoir maintenant.
Ah, parfait. Malgré que là, il me manque d'écran, là. Que ça...
So I'm gonna let the next team in, okay?
I'm good.
Hi, K-Tag.
Hi, how's it going?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Not bad, not bad.
Awesome. So one of you can share their screen, and while you guys are doing that, I'll let you know the breakdown. So when you guys are ready, you have 15 minutes to present, and then there's going to be a 15-minute Q&A. When that is done, there's a 15-minute period where the judges go in their own room and the participants go in the other breakout room. Once that is done, we come back to the main room for a 10-minute feedback period. Any questions?
Nope.
Sounds good.
So one of you can
Domo,
share their screen.
Domo,
Yeah,
do
sure,
you
I can.
mind presenting?
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you.
Here we go. Can everyone see it okay?
Yes.
Yep.
Where's yours? Good luck.
Perfect. All right, thank you very much. So, hello everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. We are KTAC Consulting, and we're super excited to explain to you our solution for L3Harris. So, gonna get my button correct. Okay, so we'll start off by just going over quickly the ISS competencies. I'm not going to explain them all, obviously, but here we have the list of the 10 competencies, and for our solution, we have targeted 6 of these competencies. I'm not going to list through them again. Don't worry about. Sorry about my lights. Let's go straight into the proposed solution. So our solution is twofold. We'll be doing 2 AI solutions separately. One will be specifically for decreasing fuel consumption, and the second one will be for supply chain management. So the first one is a multiple input neural network model using a weather and plane status to decrease fuel consumption. So I will explain this in just a minute. The second one is to implement an expert systems model to decrease replacement part arrival time, which will be explained by Tommy also in just a minute. So what's on the menu for today? First off, we have our AI solution, which is again split into the 2 parts. Second, we have our implementation plan using a timeline. And third, we have our business solution explained by George. So let's hop straight into our AI solution. Once again, what is the point of all this? Why have we created this? Again, twofold: to increase fuel efficiency and to improve our supply chain. So going straight into our fuel consumption AI, as I said before, it's a multiple input neural network. So our inputs will work as follows. We'll have a weather input. It'll be a region, and we'll see in 3D where each of these weather inputs will be as we're going through the map. So considering wind, especially wind, because that will especially affect our fuel, our altitude and precipitation. And secondly, our plane status, which is including direction, speed, plane weight, and destination. Finally, our output will be an optimized direction, again, using our direction and wind, mainly those 2 together. And our fuel consumption will come from taking the optimized direction with our speed, and considering how long we have been going for to get our fuel consumption. So I'll pass it straight on to Tommy to talk about the supply chain AI.
Thank you, Adamo. So the fuel consumption AI targets the competency 6, 9, 10 that we previously showed. For our second solution, the supply chain decision support system will improve the first 3 competencies that we saw. So this system will take as input 3 sources. The first is the inventory info, basically the stock that we have on hand. The second source is the device status. We can get the data from L3Harris predictive maintenance system to get the most vulnerable part that will need replacing in the near future. The last source is from the supplier. This includes the shipping options that they can provide and the amount that they can make in a certain duration of time. And with all that information, it will output a list of priority parts that need to be replaced per aircraft, and attached to that list will be all the suppliers in order of ranking from most cost efficient to last. Now on to the logic. Here is a simplified view of the expert system. When a component needs replacing or will be needing replacement, the system will check first the inventory stock, right? If we have it on hand, then great, it will indicate where it is stored. If it doesn't, then it looks for suppliers for that part. Depending on the urgency of the matter, we might need to go down two routes. Either the cost efficiency route, since it's not super urgent, so we want to save the most money possible, or the time efficiency route, which if we need a part urgently, then this is the route we want to go down. So on the right, you see simple calculations, right? So first, how do we calculate the ranking of the suppliers? Then we need to make a score index, right? So even though this is super simple, super rudimentary, you can see the idea behind it, right? So we check the cost of a specific supplier, against the cost across the board of all suppliers. And with that, we can make a ranking decision between all of them. Secondly, for time score index, it's the time of delivery divided by the average time it takes for other suppliers to make that delivery of the product. So in the future, we might maybe make it more sophisticated with trust factor and maybe a overall index score that combines both of them. So the best score across the board. Now I will pass it on to my colleague Kendrick for the next part.
Thank you, Tommy. So now we'll be covering the implementation time. Are the slides changing for you guys? Okay. So we'll be covering the implementation time. And our main focus here is the implementation for the fuel consumption AI. Now, we expect to start development right away. And this is because we want to have it done by the time that L3Harris needs to have a proposal for the remotely piloted aircraft systems contract from the Canadian government. Thus, we want to start development right away. Once it's developed, it needs all that data that's harvested through testing to optimize the routes and positioning of the aircraft. Once that is fully complete, we'll obviously need to test it and certify it before we can then implement it. This should take around 2 to 3 years. Then on the sidelines, in an asynchronous fashion, we'll be working on the supply chain AI. So as you can see, the fuel consumption we started in 2022, the supply chain will be in 2023 in tangent with the data harvest from the fuel consumption. This allows us to keep our team of software developers and while developing both softwares at the same time. Now, what will be required for this? Well, we expect a small team of 15 to 20 software developers. That is for the development side. For the physical side, we'll be expecting to rent some airtime, a location. We'll probably need to use the aircraft in question. That's the only way to make the software usable for said aircraft. And obviously, there'll be costs in maintenance and crew time. And then also, we'll be spending a lot of fuel to save a lot of fuel. Now I'll be passing it on to George to discuss the business solution.
Thank you, Kendrick. So we'll start first by looking at the business plan and how our solution may update it. So let's take a look at any savings and efficiencies that our solution can bring. So these are categorized into 3: fuel, money, and time. So firstly, with fuel, the customers that adopt our solution can instantly enjoy fuel savings, both in terms of cost and greenhouse gas emissions. So in the past, similar AI used in a more of a commercial airline setting has saved companies roughly $150 million per year in fuel costs. Air France in specific has saved 590,000 tons of CO2 emissions. And we know that lowering fuel means that you can be more sustainable as a company. And this is a major selling point for customers like the Government of Canada. So second, let's take a look at money. The supply chain improvements that Tommy went over will ensure that L3Harris MAS never has to overpay for resources. And lastly, time. As we know, ISS is all about timely support. Supporting our customers is not anywhere near as valuable if we take too long to conduct our activities. And improving our supply chain efficiency will ensure that parts are ready as soon as customers need them. So next, we're going to look at how it can improve our organizational effectiveness. So L3Harris MAS has the potential to become a first mover in fuel-related AI solutions when it comes to the defense avionics industry. And this could potentially help gain lots of large contracts. Secondly, this can increase supply chain agility along with resilience to face the growing demand along with any COVID-19 pandemic challenges. So this is because we could plan ahead for potential shortages, work in collaboration with L3Harris's already established predictive maintenance model, and also move towards a more fragmented supplier base. Lastly, we could really help L3Harris reinforce its sustainability-focused reputation. So next, we're going to look at some revenue projections. So the remotely piloted aircraft system contract from the Government of Canada currently has a budget of $5 billion, and this contract is of particular interest to us. So this contract's budget could be broken down into the contracts themselves, project management, infrastructure, and contingencies. So based on this, we could estimate that there's anywhere between 250 million and 1.25 billion in contract revenue for us if we could win such a contract. And the reason it's of particular interest is because L3Harris MAS is one of the two finalists to score such a lucrative contract. And increasing the chances of winning this contract through our solution has the potential to earn the company billions. So let's take a deeper look at the contract. So how does our solution tilt the odds of winning said contract in our favor? So our competitor, General Atomics Aeronautical Systems, is very proficient in its AI use and very forward-thinking. So rivaling them on this stage is key to winning the contract. In addition, Canada is concerned about its environment and its greenhouse gas emissions. So if it adopts our solution, it has the potential to gain international recognition by implementing sustainability in the defense sector. And lastly, Canada's defense sector is funded by the government treasury, which is explicitly stated that return on investment and value for their money are key in choosing contractors, which we can give them with their monetary savings by decreasing their fuel usage. So next, we're going to take a look at the estimated project costs, development and maintenance costs more specifically. So first, let's look at the development costs. So we have set aside 3.5 to 6 million in AI developer strategies with the team of AI developers that Kendrick mentioned earlier, and an additional 5 to 10 million in testing costs because, of course, in order to gain enough data for our model to be useful, we need to run a certain amount of flight hours. So this will constitute fuel usage, takeoff spaces, and any operating costs that go along with this. So this all adds up to 8.5 million to 16 million in projected development costs among the project's first 2 years. Next, let's take a look at how much it's going to cost to maintain it in the future. So we're going to set aside from our original team $400,000 in AI developer salaries, in order to have them on hand for maintenance. The reason it's quite low is because the maintenance does not have to be continuous, and these AI specialists will be working on other projects while also focusing on maintaining our solution. And we're also going to have a sales and marketing team in order to promote our new innovation and really get the word out there. And with a team of roughly 15 to 20, this will cost anywhere between 800,000 to 1.2 million per year. So in total, our maintenance costs are anywhere between 1.2 to 1.8 million dollars per year. And it says year 3 because that's going to be our first year of full-scale operation of our solution. So last but not least, we're going to look at any potential risks. So of course, we focused on that one contract in specific, but even if our solution works perfectly, there's still a chance that the contract is not won. However, the technology that we're working towards developing can be implemented company-wide. It is versatile and it could contribute towards winning many future contracts in the avionics industry in general. And lastly, fuel efficiency will save money in the long term because the AI model that we have developed will only improve over time as we feed it more and more data. Thanks so much for listening, and we're looking forward to your questions.
Okay, so we'll now go to the Q&A section. The judges, when you're ready, the floor is yours.
I have a question. I'm not sure if Joe wanted to start as our lead judge. Don't see him anymore.
Ladies first.
Okay. On your timeline page, and you mentioned that you will have the programmer, I think it was 20-ish programmers working in series, developing one set of tools, then the other one. What made you choose that approach versus doing them in parallel?
Well, the asynchronous gives us time to give the programmers some level of comfort and stability. That is key to having a good team working. If we hire a whole bunch of people at once, we'll increase the possibilities of running into administration problems and people simply not getting along. But we imagine that if we have the same team and you hold on to them for a longer period of time, they'll get more comfortable with each other and perform better and work faster. And that is why we believe that we want to do the development asynchronously to increase its success.
Okay, and maybe a subsequent question to that, did you do a business case to say if you were to have them in parallel, your solution will be earlier on the market, therefore you have more revenues or more? Did you do that comparison or only more on the people, I guess, team? The answer you just gave me, I'm looking for the terminology, no?
I'll let George take this.
Yeah, like another reason that we were more focused, like Kendrick said, on developing good teams that we know will add value to the company in the future and not so much going as fast as we possibly can is because a lot of the government of Canada related contracts that we have our eyes set on are dated into the future. So the one that I specifically mentioned is going to choose the winner of that contract in 2023. And there are also a variety of other contracts dated 2024 and into the future. So time was less of a concern than developing good teams.
Thank you.
Also, just to add to that, so most of the contracts that L3Harris has is military, right? And the thing that the principle that we wanted to target with taking our time is reliability. So because of its military contracts, any time that a system fails, that means lives can be in danger, right? So reliability is the most important thing that we strive for.
Hello?
I can ask, yeah. So thank you for the presentation. Okay, so one of the questions I have is you mentioned that we'd be a first mover in terms of like savings and efficiency. I believe it's George that mentioned that, like it's on the page, like with the fuel, money, time, and then the organizational effectiveness and fuel related AI solutions. But are there risks also with being a first mover? Like, do you see it could be a positive and a negative, and how do you see those risks?
Yeah, so anytime you're gonna get something to save money, of course, like there usually are risks in its efficiency. However, the reason that we're comfortable integrating this into industries such as defense, such as national defense, is because our fuel efficiency is coming more from, well, it's coming directly from our AI system rather than compromising in any other categories. So the product itself is equivalent in terms of its capabilities. However, the added feature in a way that's where the fuel efficiency really comes from. So we don't have to compromise in other sectors. So we go forward with a product that is just as has the same reputation as L3Harris's general product. So the first mover is more that we'll be bringing forward a new benefit that people may not always think of when they think of kind of the biggest things people look for in the defense industry. So it's kind of like the opportunity in being the first mover there, in my opinion, outweighs the risk.
Also, so to add to that, L3Harris, when we analyze their business, they already have an AI infrastructure in place. So that's why we were so comfortable with implementing a new one, right? Implementing a new feature that can, so 10 minutes. Yeah, so that can improve the current infrastructure of L3Harris, since L3Harris is already comfortable with AI.
Okay. I didn't really see the return on investment on this. Like you're counting on that contract, right? That the contract would finance this project, right? The $5 billion contract that we would be able to finance this from there.
So, sorry, I'm sorry. Go on. Is that it? Or?
Yeah, I need to understand my investment. Like, when do I get my investment covered from doing this? What if I don't get, like you mentioned that one of the risks was, one of your key risks, your last slide was that I might not get the contract, but I still could do it. I could still absorb this. So I just need to understand, that's a lot of money. How do I absorb this? And when do I get my return on investment? Like from a cash on cash.
So since we have two systems in place, right? Two AI systems, the supply chain and the fuel consumption. So the supply chain is a more corporate, or it's just a more business-wide solution that can get return on investment right when it's done, right? That this project can be applied to any aircraft, any project that is currently in the works that needs maintenance and replacement parts. The second AI is the fuel consumption, right? This is a feature that we want to add to the current project, the current government contract, to push us over the edge over our competitors. So the first project will give us return on investment right away when it's done, while the second will prove its worth when we get the contract.
And just to add to that, so the contract that I mentioned was the one that we are one of the two in the final running for. So that's why it was a particular interest. And that's why I mentioned that even if everything runs smoothly, nothing is guaranteed. However, like there are going to be other contracts that will be similar in the future that this technology will also increase our chances in. And another thing to note is that that contract only has 2 finalists. So even if we were to say that there's a 50-50 chance that each of us get it, even increasing our chance ever so slightly will return the investment instantly because of the sheer size of the contract. So size being hundreds of millions of dollars. So increasing our likelihood over one contract, yes, we might not get it necessarily right away. However, with many contracts in play in the future and the technology only improving through more and more trial and more data, over time, the return on investment will be there as it helps us win more contracts in the future.
When you presented your development costs, was it integrated or was it separate between the two? So now, you had an implementation plan separate, and you're telling me the lower risk, higher punch, if you want, is the supply chain AI, and the fuel consumption AI is more risky, longer term, embedded. But I saw one big, I don't know, maybe I'm confused, but like the development costs, they were all integrated. Like if I were to, can I pick one of the two projects? Like if I feel like, or
you're right. We did just put it all together in one big number. So it's fast to present. In reality, what we did was we took the approximate amount of developers we would require. We took a reasonable wage, and then because we expected development time of 1 year for each project, we covered those salaries over that time. So really, if you want to do one project, in development costs, it would cost you half as much. And if you want to do both, it would cost the amount that we proposed.
And also to add to that, like you said, the, I guess, lower risk side of it was the supply chain, which also had a lot less development costs because of a lot less testing that had to get included. So a lot of the testing for the more ambitious, if you will, fuel savings solution had to do with testing the solution itself, which took a lot of fuel in itself and operating aircrafts in order to gather data to make it viable. So all those costs, so the 5 to 10 million that fell into that category would not be present if one wanted to go forward with just the supply chain side of things. So the supply chain solution standalone is a lot cheaper. It would be only around, I believe 3 million or so, if I remember correctly, and that would be mostly driven by the AI developer strategies, salaries.
Another question, and maybe I'm going back to the beginning. You went from, there was 10 criteria, you chose 6, and you ended up with 2 solutions. What was the thought process, and did you consider any other solution before your final choice with the supply chain and the fuel consumption AI?
I don't know if we can put the 10 competencies back up. So basically, each solution targets 3 specific competencies, right? We have thought about other ideas that would touch other competencies, but we didn't see a way to implement them, and we didn't want to stretch ourselves too thin. So we decided on the 2 that gave us the best or the most competency touch, right? So the second solution is the supply chain touches the first 3, right? It helps the maintenance and repair of aircraft. It helps the supply chain since it's more resilient, and the forecasting of demand also increases the resilience since we don't have to wait for this part to come, since we would have already predicted that we will need it, and we would have ordered it before a potential shortage. For the second part, the second AI, which is the fuel consumption, targets 6, 9, and 10. So these, the fuel consumption basically improves the data and improves the current system that L3Harris has, right? So the ILS, the Comprehensive Integrated Logistics Support, this helps us have a better understanding of the entire system.
Thank you.
Any more questions?
Yeah, I'm just trying to formulate it. I'll be with you in a second.
Take your time.
So you focused on fuel consumption on your slide number 8, where you took in a lot of different factors, but there's other factors that also need to be taken into consideration, which is availability of fuels. And are you planning on using biofuels, other types of fuels in your analysis? And within your calculations, or is it strictly looking at the existing platform and the different altitudes or the different areas that that the platform will be flying in?
So does anybody else want to take this? Or
Yeah, I can take it.
Go ahead.
So the idea is basically, with the drone in question, we imagine that surveillance runs would be a big part of it. Canada is not a very hostile country, but surveillance is quite important. And we imagined that there are some predictable routes. And in those predictable routes, it would be nice if we could extend how long the drone is in the field by saving the fuel and also saving us costs at the same time. And as it's flying around, perhaps just going a bit higher would save it that much more fuel. And that was the main goal.
Okay.
And
Perfect.
just to add, if the drones or aircrafts that we're speaking of are kind of usable with the other fuels that you've mentioned, then I don't see a reason that we can't have our developers work towards adding a different data value, if you will, to integrate different fuels and test those as well. But we didn't make that assumption because we weren't sure if the alternative fuels were usable with that specific aircraft.
Perfect. Well, thank you guys. Great job in the short time that you had. Thank you.
Thank you for all
Thanks
your
a lot.
questions.
Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you for
Really
the
For all
appreciate it.
interesting questions.
Be putting everyone in breakout rooms, and for the next 15 minutes, the judges can deliberate and input their scores. So when you see the pop-up, you can join.
Okay.
Go. are all done. I'll close the breakout room. You are still missing the rate economic feasibility, Eva. If you could please fill it out. You're muted.
We lost you, Eva. You left before us.
You're muted.
Yes, I did it. I just saw it. I realized I went back and we did checked everything to see if I was missing something.
Thank you so much.
Hey,
Perfect. So
K-Tag.
back. Thank you to K-Tag. Amazing job. Will be again the feedback period.
Hey, guys, great job. Sorry I missed the very beginning because our friend at Zoom decided to kick me out and bring me back and kick me out again. So I missed the first couple of slides, but I caught on pretty quick. Great presentation. I like the way you guys found the problem statement, identified the key areas we were looking at, and then focused on two instead of trying to develop for the whole whack of things. You found a solution that's close to my heart because I've been working on RPAS for the past 3 years and will be for the next year and a half. So it's quite interesting what you guys brought up. Couple of things. When you're proposing solutions like for fuel and other elements, go through the problem chart again or through the case to find out if that is an element that we have an activity in. Because nowhere was it in the problem in the case presented, because fuel is not something we are responsible for. That's the end customer, that's the Canadian Armed Forces. Fuel efficiency, if you would have gone, we are able to use data to give you longer endurance or better fuel efficiency and be on station longer, that would have been a different, it's the same thing, but presented in a different fashion. And that would give me points to win the proposal. The other element I liked is you put up our VFR 90 aircraft from our sister division in the US and talked about how you would use that in order to get some baseline data. So good research on the company. My last point is the on one of your last slides, you talked about return on investment for the Canadian government and how important that is for the Canadian government, which is, I think, on slide 19 at the very bottom. And I would have liked for you to expand as to how you would have achieved that return on investment for Canada, how this investment would have helped us win the contract. And it's funny, I'm going to bring up some of your suggestions to the team when I meet with them tomorrow and see what they say. So good job and keep up the good work. You got a big case coming up tomorrow, so get some rest tonight. But I believe my partners have a couple more questions for you.
And sorry for the background. I have another judge in another room. So congratulations. I mean, very impressed. I know you guys only had 6 hours, which I found out earlier on today. So double impressed, I guess, by that. So a few comments, they're not in any particular order. I felt that you were like working at L3Harris. You used the we at L3Harris, which, you know, makes me think that you really appropriated the problem statement and wanted to be part of the solution. And by the way, I do not work at L3, but I felt you guys were. You talk about the Canadian content, which was, as the judge were, you know, kind of an important criteria. You also look at the competitive landscape benchmark with, I think it was Airbus. So in my mind, you had a good topo of kind of the surrounding of the overall project. Your solution, in my mind, were clear, with the exception, and I even had to ask Joe offline. So the fuel part of it, I understood the mechanic of it, but meaning, you know, like the criteria helping the fuel efficiency. However, it wasn't clear to me how that will help L3Harris. And I think Joe just kind of mentioned that. very difficult to work from home, and I've been doing it for 2 years now, but still, I mean, there was still a good flow, and even in the question, and it's okay, somebody has answer a question and somebody else add it, which again, working from home, sometimes you have a 2-second delay, which is normal, but, wasn't awkward at all. And yeah, I think that was it. And or maybe just a last comment that, especially on the supply chain solution, found that it was, how can I say, maybe more, realistic, easily or not that bad to implement, easy to implement or easier, I guess. So, it's something that I can see the potential. So again, thank you and congratulations. And I think Eva probably has a few more points to add.
Yes, so thank you so much. I really enjoyed your presentation. I think you guys opened up well, like it was a demo that started at the beginning. I like 10 competencies that you had at the beginning and what you were going to hit on. I would like those leverage at the end. I think I can't remember who asked the question, Julie, and you guys did go back and bring them up, but to leverage them against the 2 solutions and tell me which solutions hitting which one of the 10 competencies that you did at the end, but you have done it like as part of like your conclusion to tell me how you're wrapping back up, the costs. I already asked the question. I would like to have, the breakdown between the 2 products, the fuel consumption AI, supply chain AI. And then if I do both, what is the package deal, the economies of scale I get? So it entices me to look at both, right? And so that would have been, very useful, but you guys tried to answer that. I agree with Julie that like the supply chain solution is quite pragmatic. I could see how it could be done. Like it's, and it's simple in nature that I think it's like a low hanging fruit. So you could probably do that quicker and get some, benefits. So, and that's why when you see the costs, we could see that we'll be able to see benefit costs and see that that's a low hanging fruit. Maybe we start with that and then, keep working on the other kind of thing. What else? Put page numbers at the bottom of your pages. You don't have that. So like, I like that because I can tell you go back to that page. What else? And I like the fact you had your risk slide at the end. That we might not get the contract, but that only impacts one of your options, one of your products, right? You can still do the supply chain. So if the costs are separated out and everything, it allows me to visualize that and say I could still do that, and maybe I could, bring up the investment required for that particular solution. Great job, guys.
Well, thank you for all the feedback. I think we've just learned a lot just based off of that alone. I'm glad that some of our ideas might help you, Joe. So thank you. This was really a fun case to do, and thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, thank you all very, very much. Yeah, they were
Really
really, really
appreciate it.
helpful. Yeah.
I will implement your feedback for a 12-hour case.
Yeah, for sure.
You guys did good. One important thing, and I'm sorry I didn't hear it at the beginning, but did you guys take the opportunity to introduce each other at the very beginning? Say, just to introduce yourself so we know who you guys are, or did you guys just jump into it?
I just mentioned KTAC Consulting. I didn't say our names.
So
yeah.
When you go into the next rounds or in the business world, take the time to introduce yourselves, because it's good for your audience to know who you are. And what I really liked is you bounced off each other. Like George would answer, and then Tommy would say, let me add on to that, or vice versa, or Kendrick and everybody else. That was really well done. Good luck tomorrow. And key thing here is to have fun and enjoy what you're doing.
Maybe just one point on the it looks like you have another one tomorrow. So on the logistics slide, there was a delay in the slide, probably of a minute or so, 30 seconds. So you were talking and I'm kind of, is that on the slide? So not sure if it was a computer delay or a human delay, but you might want to adjust for tomorrow. Little detail. Okay.
Yeah.
It's not, it doesn't impact the content, but it impacts me trying to follow.
Thanks, guys. Good luck.
Thank
Good
you.
luck
Yeah,
tomorrow.
very well done.
Yeah,
Thank
thank you all very, very much.
Good luck tomorrow.
Yeah.
Thank you guys.
Bye.
Great evening.
Perfect. Thank
Take
you,
care,
James.
guys.
I'll see you guys tomorrow.
See you.
See ya.
Great. One more.
I feel
You
like
were
it's
right,
speed
Julie.
dating.
Julie, you were right. One didn't have his bed made.
Sorry?
T'avais raison. Un n'avait pas fait son lit.
Okay, yeah, I know, I am.
Do we have like 2 minutes or we don't?
Yeah,
Absolutely, you guys have a few minutes to.
that's why Gab had that banner design behind her, so we don't see her bedroom.
Yeah.
Yes, that's exactly why I'm guilty.
Okay, so what
I'll be
time
back
do
in
we
a
start
minute.
up again? 5?
5:03, I'll let the next team in.
Okay, I'm gonna go and get a coffee.
Go
No
for
worries.
it. Julie, tu diras à Eric de baisser son ton.
D'habitude, c'est moi qui parle plus fort, malgré que porte fermée, là. Normalement, je suis sur le headset. But yeah, at some point I was kind of, oh man, there's a noise in the background.
Yeah.
Should have been one downstairs and one upstairs.
Tu pourrais le taquiner.
Oui, d'habitude, c'est moi qui parle fort.
Mais c'est lui qui a fait une belle présentation. C'est lui qui a fait le case.
Je savais même pas.
Tu savais même pas?
Non, mais as you know, I work at Bombardier. Fait que, on est... Non, mais you know, so I have to be forthcoming. So on parle pas vraiment de travail, tu sais. Il dit, I told you, yeah, you might have told me, but il m'a pas... Là, j'ai dit, maybe I remember that you did the case, but I had no idea what the case was all about. Parce qu'on parle pas du travail.
Non,
So.
mais... Moi, je travaillais à Bombardier jusqu'à 2003.
OK.
Quand vous nous avez vendus.
Oui. Moi, j'ai commencé en 97. D'abord, tu connais Marco Hayon, peut-être? C'est un de mes collègues.
Tu lui diras, vois s'il se rappelle de moi.
OK, mais là, il est en vacances cette semaine, la semaine prochaine. Je vais lui dire, mec, que tu reviennes.
Ouais.
He has a good memory. I'm sure he does.
Tu lui parleras de EST Cooling.
Attends. EST Cooling, OK. OK, I will. Take a note.
Il va te regarder, il va te dire, oh non.
OK. Every time I meet someone that knows Marco, they always have une petite histoire. Puis le Marco, il fait comme, what? He talked to you about that? Yes, he did.
Ouais, ouais.
OK.
Moi, ça fait 42 ans que j'ai commencé à Canada.
Oh my God, wow. OK. Yeah. Mais dans quel département?
Moi, j'étais dans le temps, c'était Project Engineering.
OK. OK. Moi, tu vois, ça fait 25 ans maintenant.
Ah.
Ouais. Toujours à Bombardier, ben, ça fait 25 ans, 4 ans supply chain, j'ai essayé ça, puis 21 ans à l'ingénierie.
C'est bien.
Ouais.
Tu étais au BAM?
Oui. Oui, quelques années. Is it
And you're
time,
sitting
Gabrielle, are we talking too much or?
No,
I'm gonna-
Gabrielle is sitting there going, wow, they're old.
No, you guys are young at heart. I know that. That's never gonna change. So I'm
You're
gonna let
fine.
the next team in.
Okay,
Yes.
good.
It's
It's CCG team.
TCG, which number is
TCG.
that?
7.
7.
Oh, the presentation is not in the drive.
Yes, it is. You faut down arrow.
Down arrow, okay, refresh.
So hi team. You guys can start sharing your screen. While you're doing that, I'll let you guys know of the breakdown. So there's
All right.
15 minutes to present, and then there's a 15-minute Q&A. After that, there's 15 minutes where the judges will be going in their own breakout rooms, and the participants will be going in the other breakout room. Once that is done, we're going to come back to the main room for a 10-minute feedback period. Any questions?
No, but like my other team members have a problem with the computer. So they're just taking a backup computer and they'll be here in a second.
No worries, take your time. Let me know when you are ready.
Alrighty.
Can't wait to hear what Montu means.
We hope to blow you away.
Apologies for the delay.
Perfect, so they should be coming in now. Awesome. When you are ready, the floor is yours. Good luck.
Hopefully you guys can see us and hear us.
Yes.
Perfect, thank you. Alrighty, let's get started. The military complex is the industry that keeps us safe, and we're here to keep them safe. Introducing Virtual Combat Engineer Montu, where innovation meets Montu. We are solving the problem of let's go back to our team. My name is Yasmin Tariq, and with me is Mustafa Awed, Abdullah, and Noor. And we are the CCG team, very proud to present our solution. We are solving the problem of a failed mechanic repairs on military aircraft to increase combat readiness. This is driven by the fact that technology advancements and waves must be ridden by our client, L3Harris. In essence, our objective is to create a product or system that significantly reduces the probability of mechanical component failures and aids in maintenance. And so Montu uses an AI predictive maintenance technology to prevent mechanical failure. This leaves us with a profound impact of an NPV value of $290 million, a reduction of maintenance costs, amongst other things, of 30%, and a reduction of downtime by 50%.
Now, the current situation is as follows. The advanced data analysis tools currently at L3Harris allows operators to quickly identify, quantify, and assess safety management system risk factors and the performance of equipment. Now, this process is time-consuming, inefficient, and human-centric when the world is shifting towards a more technologically advanced era. Now, our goal is to automatically identify these risks and only have the operators for the most crucial tasks.
So our solution is a comprehensive solution which optimizes aircraft use, preventative maintenance through the use of AI analysis of in-flight data, visual inspection, live fatigue to suggest proper aircraft use, as well as part replacement and immediate additive manufacturing. Now, the objectives of our product here are tackling the supply chain issue. Military products are not available online, and it takes time to order and ship them. And a lot of the military components are custom made per the device. Therefore, this is inefficient in terms of maintenance and replacing parts. We're also looking to increase safety through our product or system, because if you have a mechanical failure component on a high-speed jet, there is no question that it will likely lead to disaster. And therefore, we need to minimize the mechanical faults. And we're going to do that through the following. This is an overview of our process. We're going to be taking in the flight data that's already analyzed by L3Harris using their existing AI infrastructure, and building off of that, An ML and further AI analysis will suggest an action plan. It will also relate a report of failing or worn out components. And finally, will give in-flight recommendations to pilots in case that any activities have increased stress on the components that are at risk. So let's talk first about the predictive maintenance process. The flight data and the component data, which I will discuss in a second, are inputted into the machine learning algorithm. And therefore, through ML data, we will be able to determine the failing or most used components. And after an engineering operator approval, we may either suggest the ordering of a component in the case of a complex component, or we may produce those custom components by additive manufacturing in case of simple components. Now, the flight data that was recently discussed is already being collected by L3Harris, and this infrastructure needs to be built off of. And therefore, this flight data from the sensors existing on planes will be analyzed by the existing L3 AI, and therefore will give us the aircraft health data. That is already in place. But the additional thing is the component data. We will be providing a quantifiable visual inspection process that uses AI image processing and data translation to release component data. Furthermore, data from the aircraft force sensors will be input into a stress mapping software, which will differentiate which components are used more during a flight, depending on the various maneuvers of military aircraft. Now let's talk about the stress mapping data. Component lifespan depends greatly on the nature of flight, and as opposed to commercial flights, military aircraft are completely variant in their nature of flight. Now, the ability to quantify the different distribution of fatigue on different components will be surmounted in order to determine which components would fail first. And military aircraft will have history stored and analyzed over time by our ML. Now, the visual inspection system will have a major component where predictive maintenance is analysis through this specifically. To quantify visual inspection data, a major VI will be done through an automated system and then analyzed by AI. We will use a borescope imaging data, which is the industrial standard, to run through an image processing AI for quantifying this data and storing it into our ML. Now, finally, we have our in-flight recommendation system. Based on which components we can determine are being used the most and may lead to failure, we will provide courses of action to optimize component longevity. So if a pilot is stressing a specific component too much or is stressing a component that has been worn out by previous flights, there will be communicated to adjust their course of action. To also prevent communication hacks between HQ and these military aircraft, we will be using blockchain, which has already been implemented in various industries. Now, let's talk about on-site additive manufacturing. The majority of components are simple, yes, but in military aircraft, they often do not follow standard design, and therefore they often take days or weeks to be ordered, shipped, and especially with the current global supply chain crisis, this will hinder this process, which is completely inefficient. And therefore, we're proposing on-site additive manufacturing, which will use the various military-grade materials to rapidly produce these generalized simple components. And selective laser melting will provide us with rapid yet accurate production of various metallic components. Now, having these on-site stations will be dedicated for quick production and quick part replacement, and thus not hindering the entire process of military testing, which is especially important for our following country.
Now, here's a brief overview of the software process. We'll begin by data collection, and as previously mentioned, data will be collected from flight data and the component data. Next, we will be cleaning the said data, and it will undergo a cleaning process in which we will identify and drop duplicates and redundant data, detect and remove inconsistencies in the data by validating with known factors, and we will maintain strict quality measures while importing new data. We will also be fixing typos and filling in like missing areas or inefficient like areas with false or like null characters, like just empty cells. As for the Next is feeding the data into a machine learning model. Now, to make the program simpler, we'll treat it as a basic classification problem in which we have 5 basic conditions of these the spare parts of flights, which I will elaborate further in the next slide. Now, the algorithm we are going to be using is the naive Bayes algorithm. It is a classification algorithm that is very suitable for multi-class classification, and it is very useful for making predictions and forecasting data based on historical results. Now, the 5 different classes are as follows. Now, a spare part could be in factory condition, it could be excellent, it could be good and functional, deteriorated but functional, or it might need replacement. And we will be alarming the headquarters when it is at the deteriorated but functional state. As for the evaluation process that we are going to evaluate our program with, we're going to be using the mean absolute percentage error, as it is very commonly used, very easily to interpret and to explain, and it is a good evaluation of our program's accuracy.
Now, the global maintenance and repair market was valued at $606 billion in 2020, and after a CAGR of 2.97%, we found that it values at $247 billion. And so this is the total global market. However, our serviceable available market is about 90 billion of that, given the fact that it was valued at 75 billion in 2018. Now, the infiltration of this market won't be without its barriers, and in this case, a very intense competitive barrier in the shape of Raytheon, Lockheed, and Boeing. Now, Raytheon Technologies Corporation has a range of services offered. In the simplest terms, it provides electronic and propulsion skills applied mainly for aerospace and military missions. However, they were unable to recover from the pandemic and the dependency on their commercial flights. They had a major casualty of the coronavirus pandemic, and new commercial aircrafts and related part orders plunged and results to the slow recovery. And so they have this same problem as Boeing, as I'll explain further. Now, for Lockheed Martin Corporation, their operations expand globally, 375 facilities, 16,000 active suppliers. However, as they don't have the innovative part of our solution, which is AI preventative, embedded within the conduction of their maintenance. And finally, we have Boeing, which has a supplementary global reach, which is their biggest advantage, both in sales and the production facilities. However, there's this lack of trust. We've all heard of the 737 MAX, which actually had 2 deadly crashes and killed around 356 people. And this cascading disrupted the global aviation industry, especially this firm. In light of this considered contracts, in the case, we were able to understand that for the future fighter capability, L3 is not considered. However, the 3 other contracts, we have this value proposition with our solution. For the RPAS, we provide an automated and preventative solution, that of which our other competing supplier only has a GAASI, which is basically a provided organization and depot level of maintenance that is actually hands-on. For future aircrew training, Sky Align has an AR/VR, while us, on the other hand, we have AI data analytics. And so we're just one step ahead. And for our Hornet extension program project, we find that our solution provides this health analysis of the fleets that ensures full operation and capability of readiness. Finally, this is our value proposition. We allow for a higher position through visual inspection, decreased maintenance costs through AI preventative measures, and improved customer satisfaction in the form of the Canadian government. Now, this is our SWOT analysis. Simply stated, our solution is based on a already existing foundation, and our market, for our strength, for our opportunities, our market is huge. For our weaknesses, the fact that we still have to undergo training for the human, and we do have limited expertise and our high costs. It'll cost higher for the software development, and our threats are the intense competition.
So how will we bring our solution to the market? So to fit the 3-year timeline mandate, we must acquire a company that specializes in additive manufacturing. And SLM fits this criteria, as it has patented technology and has experience with common military materials. And applying a multiple to acquire the valuation price of around 4, which accounts for a premium, acquisition price will comprise around $215 million. So what is the structure of the savings of efficiencies? So for maintenance, our solution provides the savings or reduction of maintenance up to 30%, a reduction of breakdown up to 70%, a reduction in downtime up to 50%, and overall, which results in the reduction of scheduled repair up to 12%. Ultimately, fewer redundant inspections and ineffective preventative measures, which decreases labor and materials used. So for the revenue projections, We cater specifically for the Hornet extension program, which is currently L3Harris is bidding for, but it also caters to other contracts. In addition to the MRO market, where we are seeking to capture an additional 1% market share, which is conservative given the highly competitive nature of this market. So looking at the financials and the financial projections, we need an initial investment of $300 million, which accounts for the acquisition of the company, the software development of the planes and the blockchain, in addition to a working capital of around $25 million, which translates into a revenue in year one of around $300 million, and which results in an operating profit of $80 million. Overall, for this project, there's a payback period of around 4.5 years, ROI of around 21%, and an NPV of $280 million. But this is simply a lower threshold because it does not take into account SLM's financials and the revenue coming from them, or an additional market share captured from the MRO market. So the financial risks associated with this acquisition is its profitability. SLM has been consistently making a profit for the past 5 years. In addition, but this is an opportunity given that the shareholders of SLM are private equity firms, and therefore giving them a premium on the multiple for the acquisition gives them an opportunity exit. Looking at the operational risks and mitigation, this include the malfunctions in the additive manufacturing components, in addition to the false prediction of the AI. However, these two main risks are mitigated by having the technical expertise by SLM, as well as having operator approval in the false prediction, which L3Harris already has. And over time, with the capture of data over time, the ML will produce more accurate results. For the timeline, to fit the 3-year, our product fits the 3-year timeline. So starting from year 0 or time 0, we will acquire the SLM company in addition to developing the software. In 6 months, which is phase 2, we will start developing data collection and testing. And therefore, on the 2-year mark, we'll be able to launch and distribute. And phase 4, after the launch, which are the next steps, essentially.
So the next steps are quite we're going to look into the introduction of complex parts for SLM manufacturing. At that point, we will have the know-how to produce more complex parts and therefore eradicate the entire supply chain crisis. Furthermore, we want to enhance our visual inspection technology, as well as develop better AI for better predictive analysis and preventative maintenance. There's always room to improve, and we are setting the base for the future. So in absolute conclusion, our solution is efficient and fast. It ensures efficient and safe return of all aircraft. It is cost effective, as not only are you preventing crisis, you are preventing the entire process of acquisition of supplies, but we are setting the foundation for the future of L3Harris. We are the Cairo Consulting Group, and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, CCG. We will begin Q&A period.
First of all, take a breath, guys.
It was the time.
What?
It was the time. It was the time.
Yeah. Wow. That's all I could say. You guys, in the 6 hours you had, I'm sure you did not waste any minute. You worked hard and you developed a very good solution. Couple of questions. So I'm trying to remember what slide it was on, and I'll just dig. It'll take me a few seconds.
We can share the screen if you'd like.
No, we have your presentation, so I was following a little bit with you guys. You come up after your SWOT, and then you say, but now we have to buy this company. But why are we looking at buying the company where throughout the rest of your presentation, you're saying you're going to do this, and then all of a sudden, we're looking at buying SLM solutions. Where did that come from?
So I can start off with the answer. So the core of our solution remains the AI system, which Abdullah can expand on. But essential component of this AI system is the predictive maintenance, or the 3D printing, essentially. And to fit within the 3-year timeline mandate, it will take too long for L3Harris to develop this technology in-house. And SLM's financial conditions allow us for a quick acquisition.
Okay. See, that was the only thing that was missing. I didn't catch that at all. So I'll let the other judges, Julie or Eva.
I'll go ahead, Eva. I'll go after. That's fine.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Also, the SWOT is on page 30, I think, right? So one of the SWOT things that you had was around weaknesses. Maybe you could bring it up. I don't have the presentation in front of me, but I was taking notes. So you had so human-centric dependency training required. So I'm just wondering, like, we're doing an acquisition and we're implementing. So, through an acquisition, also we have different cultures coming together, right? We don't know what the acquiring company is going to be like. And then we also have to train and all these things. So we need to go to market very quickly. So what programs or what features have you thought of in your costs to ensure that? I know you showed us the costs and they're like, so you have the NPV of 280 million, but do you have a breakdown of things and, how are you ensuring that the human side of all this works? In other words, the training and the integration of the acquisition to make it all come together.
Okay, so regarding the question about the acquisition, SLM was also chosen because the company is relatively small. So SLM's total employees is around 200, which is nothing compared to L3Harris's huge operation. So SLM, given it's a small company, it will ease the integration process. And given that L3Harris already have the technology developed for AI and SLM have the technology developed for the additive manufacturing, so we just need to bridge the gap between the two companies. And essentially, given the small nature of SLM, it will ease the training component.
Okay, but we're also getting into a lot of, in different technologies, right? You mentioned blockchain, you mentioned augmented reality, all this kind of stuff. So I'm just wondering the training and the resources that we need in order to make this happen.
Okay, so I believe I can take over from this point. One major aspect that we were considering while building the solution was the differential between two things. We don't want to take L3Harris's existing resources and not build off of them, but we also want to innovate and follow the mandate of fast forward, not fast steady or fast sit in your place. So we're always looking into innovating, and we're working with L3Harris's existing resources for training, especially in AI and blockchain. It's not new technologies, but it's things that they have been considering, and it's things they have allocated budgets for, as well as allocated experts for. Therefore, in terms of that, the only training that would be required is the operation of the SLM or additive manufacturing process, in which case each SLM site would require a technical expert. And that's something we discussed within our, I can bring it up, in our risks and mitigation.
Okay.
So in our risks and mitigation, we did take into account that we would need a technical expert. And having this technical expert will not only mitigate the malfunctions in SLM, but it will also ensure the smooth operation of that process. It would not be an extensive training, as it is a basic additive manufacturing process, and any industrial engineer or any mechanical engineer would be able to operate it part-time. However, it is essential for smooth operation. And that's why we mentioned in our next steps is that we want to expand on the efficiency. It's all about efficiency in terms of our solution, and we need to keep expanding on that. However, given the 3-year mandate, this is the best that we can currently do with this solution.
Okay, maybe what I missed was because the cost breakdown, like you have the ROI and PV. So these costs, like you have a technical expert, that would be part of my cost, right? That they're going to train the trainers. In other words, the people at L3Harris that will work with them, right? Is that what you're?
This is, but maybe it's not apparent on the slide because given the layering of the slides, but we have cost in slide 33. So we estimate that the software development and training will cost $25 million. And this was based on research by the Pentagon for AI military technologies. So that's we use that as a proxy.
Okay.
Slide 33.
So, okay, so that. Okay.
Slide 33.
34, I mean, sorry, 34.
Yes.
So, okay, so software development, okay, so you have, okay, that's just the acquisition, okay. So it's embedded into your cost structure. It's part of it underneath, okay.
So it's based on the study by the Pentagon. So given that military technologies are usually not readily available on the internet. That was the only proxy we could use for the financials.
From a sensitivity analysis, what do you think is financially the most risky here? Like that could like deviate our project in terms of getting, you know, the ROI of 21%?
I think it's mainly it will be the acquisition, given that it's the largest component in the investment. The software development the software development we can already integrate and build on using L3Harris technology. And so the only X factor really in this assumptions is the acquisition of SLM. Other investments are already using existing L3 technologies. So that's how to approach it.
Okay, so acquisition is just the one shot, but the integration of the acquisition is what you're saying, right? Like the one shot, you're more confident, but the whole integration of it. Is that what you're, okay, thank you.
Thank you for your question.
Few questions. So first of all, congratulations and a lot of good work in less than or 6 hours, like give or take. A bit fast, I have to admit, I'm usually fast and I'm still catching up my breath. So I guess probably aligned with some of my question. So if I look at page 32, how did you, I guess twofold question, how did you come up with those numbers? And I'm not sure if in the following pages you confirm that the maintenance will be up to 30%, you know, so yeah, I guess that's my question. How you come up with those numbers and where do you confirm that you will meet those numbers?
So again, given the nature of the slides, we suggested that this is the upper threshold. So these are the upper limits of the saving efficiencies. And again, this was based on a research study that explores the additive manufacturing implementation in a military context. So assuming efficiency and smooth operations, this is the upper threshold of the savings. We obviously not assume that this will materialize in the first couple of years. However, once this is integrated fully within L3Harris technology and the acquisition, this is where we can reach in terms of savings.
So sorry, is it both the acquisition and the AI improvement? Is it both that this, or that was only for the acquisition of the SLM?
This is the savings as a result of both improvement in AI and SLM technology.
Okay, good.
And in terms of how we got to these numbers, in fact, these numbers were a result of a study and an actual study and report that was conducted in 2019 by Capgemini. They're one of the leading consulting services in technology. So again, given the obscure nature of the military industrial complex, it is very difficult to get accurate numbers. However, when we find a source like Capgemini, it's a blessing.
Okay. Another question, and again, it went super fast for me. So between page 12 and 13, so page 12 with your flight data, and you focus a lot on having a base that L3Harris already has some AI. It's still not clear to me, what are you bringing that is different than today? What is the improvement on the AI front that you're going to add on to L3Harris?
Perfect. So something in terms of flight data, this is not something that we are going to change. This, in fact, is the entire process that is existing in L3Harris's infrastructure. And we left it as is. They've invested quite a bit and they have the know-how. Therefore, we're not going through that. So this is the flight data and it gives us an aircraft health data report. However, it doesn't give us an analysis. Furthermore, these two components are completely driven by us, which is the visual inspection and AI image processing, as well as data from aircraft force sensors and stresses. And this results in our ability to create a machine learning algorithm to combine all of these different data inputs into one absolute report that tells us which components are overused, which components are about to fail, and which components can be replaced by our predictive manufacturing and which components should be ordered.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any more questions from the judges?
No, not on my side.
Awesome. So we'll go to the deliberation period. You should see a pop-up. If you see one, please go to your respective room. If you don't see it, I will move it, no problem.
Thank you very much for your time and consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Gabriel, before you bring them in, how soon do we lock in our scores? When do you need them by?
You're muted, Gabrielle.
That's your turn, Joe, to tell me I'm muted. Before you leave the Zoom meeting,
Okay.
Them. Thank you so much.
Perfect.
So we'll be waiting for the other Cairo team.
I'll take 5 minutes at the end, maybe on my side. Là.
Yeah,
Right.
no worries at all.
Okay.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Hi.
Hi.
Have you caught your breath yet?
Yeah.
It's 1 a.m. here, so catching your breath
Oh, yeah.
is a bit
It's
difficult.
1 a.m.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I thought it was early in the morning for you guys. You have so much energy.
I
It
wish.
is early in the morning, but very, very early in the morning. But
Yeah.
so, hey guys, I got nothing but positive comments and feedback from my side. So great job. What I liked is you introduced yourselves individually at the very beginning, which was good. You understood that this was a case for military applications and military platforms. You caught on to what we were looking for. How do you take what we're doing and bring best of market, best of field in the AI world and in marketing and how to do all of this? So chapeau. You did a competitive analysis, which was really good. You know, I don't know where you guys found the time to do this in 6 hours and develop 40 plus slides. Wow, you're good. You must be very good in time management. The only recommendations I would have going forward are monitor your time, go through your slide deck after you prepare it, and then question yourself, do I really need this slide? Should I emphasis on something else on another slide that's more important? And slow it down a little bit because it was you had 15 minutes. You have a big case coming up tomorrow. Just take your time, practice, and just understand what the important areas are for the judges what the judges want to see and focus on those. One thing I have to say, and it's to say you guys want to use 3D printing or additive manufacturing to manufacture parts. For military aircraft, they're not approved, not even on secondary, tertiary parts. So we're working on it, but like we said, you know, you guys are looking 5 years into the future. So I love your innovation to bring it forward and challenge stuff. So this is going to be really good. So thank you very much. I wish you good luck tomorrow. Hope you get some sleep tonight so that tomorrow's only 12 hours. So it's a 12-hour case, lots of time. And I hope to see you guys Saturday during the gallery event. Take a few minutes to come and say hi.
We sure will.
Okay.
Yes, maybe
Vivi or
Eva,
Eva?
yeah, I can go, Eva, if you're okay.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay. So first of all, wow, you really blew my mind. I mean, literally and physically, because I was kind of, oh my God, this is very fast. And I think that's a point of Joe. You introduce yourself. So I might repeat some of Joe's comment, but I guess at the end of the day, it's important, you know, if it's a consensus, you know, that you know of, because it's kind of, I like your strong point. So clear problem statement from the get-go, third page, you're on my attention, NPV 290, clear target. So that's very good, especially when you're presenting to executive. If you talk too much blah, blah, they don't know the punchline. You get lucky if you make it to the third slide, they're gonna zoom out, you know. So that was very good. You had also, same thing, I put a little asterisk on the competitive analysis, which was very interesting. You talk about M&A, which was also one of the criteria. Again, a lot of information. I had to ask a few questions, you know, to understand better the solution. So maybe, but we can tell you rehearsed it, that it was well prepared, that you had thought of it, but maybe next line, maybe reduce a bit the slide. Usually it's 1 slide per minute. That's kind of the rule of thumb, and you guys at 40. So you could have probably reduced your speed by 3 and just really highlight the main key point. I like the fact that you're building with what exists. So for me, it reduces the risk. There's already something that seemed to exist at at L3, you know, with the AI, you said, we won't redo that. It works fine. You're building up to it. So as an executive, I'm kind of, oh, I received that. That's good. That's building on it. Good answer at the end, kind of also tag team in the answer. Again, very good, guys. And I didn't know it was 1 a.m. because I thought it was like 6 a.m. for you, full of energy. Good job.
Thank you.
So, so same thing. Fantastic. I really enjoyed your presentation. Great job. It was too fast, and to everybody's point, when you, especially the more senior you're speaking, you have to go slower. You would lose them on the second slide, and that would be such a shame because it was such a good quality presentation, well researched and everything, you know. So, you know, you have to go back and streamline and say, you know, for each slide, what is the key takeaway, you know, like what I want, like the key points, and maybe just you could have more slides, just take away all the data and just go through them, you know, a little bit like faster, but, you know, definitely not 40. Maybe you could have like 20 or something, or 25, you know. So the rule of thumb is 1 slide per minute. Julie's right. A few things clerical, when you, the fact that, you know, in 219, you use Capgemini study, I can't remember who mentioned that on page 32, make sure you footnote that. So important. You know, it actually gives you credibility. First of all, it's not correct not to footnote it because you're using a third-party source, but also it gives you credibility on the numbers, because we were kind of wondering where these numbers come from. The fact that you've gotten from somewhere credible is really good. It gives credibility to your solution. Okay, so always footnote if you're using source at the bottom. You don't have to mention the source. At least while we're looking at the slide, we could see it. Sustainability was not really covered in your presentation. So, you know, like one slide on maybe, you know, sustainability and the process or something, I think it's important. So always go back. Again, this is an academic exercise. Go back to the evaluation criteria and make sure you're ticking the boxes at the end, just to make sure you've covered everything you have to cover, you know, by even just lightly talking about something about sustainability. You know, it's important to maximize your marks. What else did I want to say? So I love the fact that you know, did the tell, like you start off at the beginning, you told us what the business case will be, you know, what the overall thing is, and you developed it, and you came back at the end and you concluded by telling us again, right? So that's excellent. That's a great presentation style. So keep up doing that. What else could I tell you? But yeah, you did the competitors, my question. I was happy that, you know, the acquisition is the highest risk, no matter how small it is. They have to absorb a different culture, a different set of people, you know, different KPIs that they're measured by. So that's going to be risky. So that was good. I think I pretty much covered all the big points. Yeah, great job. Any questions for us?
You guys have anything for us? Other than you wanting to go to bed?
Well, that's a given.
Yeah.
But I actually had a question. Are there any current, I'm not sure, but are there any current lobbying activities to ensure that additive manufacturing enters the military industrial complex?
What it is, it's not the technology per se, it's how the reliability. So, you know, it's like when you're doing an additive manufactured part, it's layers upon layers upon layers of plastic or metal or whatever. And I'm not an engineer, so I don't, in Quebec or in Canada, they have the pinky rings. So when you get to be an engineer, you get to wear a ring. What it does is you have to do a lot of testing to prove that it's as solid as a piece of machined aluminum. So we're doing analysis right now. The Canadian forces will not allow it on their platforms. However, on a ship, they will allow it because, you know, a ship is 5 times bigger or 100 times bigger than a small fighter or transport plane, etc. But look, with planes going composite, like you look at the next generation of fighters that are mostly composite, I won't talk about the C series, Judy, but I won't.
It's not ours anymore.
No. But the 787, some of the Airbus aircraft, they're going more and more towards composite structures, composite components. So I would say over time, as people get to understand the materials and how they interact or react, that's how you will know when it'll be accepted. So by the time you graduate, and you push for it, it'll probably start making its mark.
Hopefully we'll do it by then. I'll attribute this to you, of course.
Oh, no.
It's been an absolute pleasure, and thank you very much for your time.
Well,
your kind.
thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank
Great
you.
job.
Congratulations again.
Good luck tomorrow.
Good luck tomorrow. Good continuation.
you.
Yeah.
Go to sleep
7
now.
hours from now.
Time to go.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
We'll see you tomorrow.
Well, all I could say is thank you, ladies. It's been a
Thank
pleasure.
Ah ben oui.
Right? And I was going to say all afternoon, we've been having power fluctuations because of the big winds. So I've been getting internet. So power on, off, and it stayed on for the last 2 hours. So
Thank God.
Gab and Miriam, thank you. Excellent job.
Thank you.
And
Yes.
Gabrielle, to the whole team, please. I had never used your Google Docs judging.
Yeah.
I found it a lot easier. I'm going to
yeah.
mention it at the next board meeting
Awesome.
than what we had last year.
Yes, I agree too. And I used what you had last year. It's much
Yeah.
simpler, much more intuitive. Great
And
job
this was-
organizing everything. I see the differences. It's actually enhanced this time.
Amazing.
But you know what, Eva? Designed by the students. Instead of buying the
Excellent.
software,
I love it.
this is Gabrielle and her team. And they had to convince the board to use it
Yes.
because, we're so apt to having something you buy is better than what you design. But
Not at all.
the design team came up with this and they said, we're going to do this and you're going to see it's seamless. And at the next board meeting, I think we have one next week, Gab. My
Yes.
hat's off to the team for that. Great job.
Yes. So you could
That
say
was my
some of the
first-
users loved it.
Yeah.
We loved it. And I could compare it because I've been doing this 3 years, all the other approaches. This was the easiest this time.
We'll let our VP Tech know because he's been
Yeah.
working so hard on this.
Good.
He has.
But first time for me and only good comments, I already signed up for next time, whenever it is.
Me too.
Much to all of you. It's extremely
Then don't
appreciated. Without you, there's no ENCHCOM. So
So-
thank you, and we hope to see you next year.
Thank you
Gab,
again.
make sure to write
Amazing
their
work,
names down,
Gabrielle.
eh? Gabrielle, put their names in the database for next year for the judging.
I will do that right now.
Pleasure.
Okay, guys, thank you.
It was a
I'm
pleasure
gonna
meeting
log
you
off.
guys, by the way.
Yes.
Appreciate meeting
Ça fait
you.
plaisir.
Pleasure meeting you too. Thank
It was
you.
a pleasure meeting you and Eva and Julie. Hopefully we'll meet you in person next year when the
I would
event
love
is
Yeah.
that.
Oh
live.
my God, I would love that.
Oh, me too. I'm so tired of this like virtual.
It'll
Cannot
be at
wait
the
for me to
Sheraton.
go back to work.
It'll be at the Sheraton in Montreal.
Super.
Excellent.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Take care.
Bye.
Enjoy
Take
I'm gonna
care.
log off and I'm gonna save my notes. Take care. Bye-bye.
I'm still gonna finish my reading. 2 more minutes.
Okay.
We could leave Zoom and we can go look at our Google Doc, right? There's no problem.
Yes, but please have them done in the next few minutes.
I'm gonna
Yeah,
go
yeah.
look at them
I'm
right
gonna
now.
stay here until I finish, so you'll know when I'm done.
Okay.